Hello everyone, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Carol Wahler, the TDC Executive Director. Hello Carol. Carol, it is a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, it's my pleasure to be here.
So this year we are celebrating 10 years of the archive of TDC competition in Polish-Japanese Academy. Can you tell us something more about how all this happened, how at the very beginning of the cooperation?
Oh, definitely. So I had met Eva. I can't pronounce her last name, so you must forgive me. And one day, I met her at a typographer, but one day my doorbell rang and in came Eva. She was visiting from Poland and we're chatting and she said, I would love to be able to get the TDC exhibit. I said, all right, let me see what I could work out. And then I worked it out, how I could do it, and I was in Barcelona again for a typography, and there was Eva walking up the steps. I go, Eva, yes, I got it worked out, and you can definitely get the exhibit without a doubt. The reason I had to work it out was that I had so many, and then the exhibit would go from country to country. But she wanted it just for Poland, so I needed to work out having that extra one. And therefore, I just put that on the list that I just needed. Instead of 6, I made it 8, because I had another country at that point, and I have 8 exhibits I collect every year. I put together every year from the winners. And this way it gives people the opportunity, once they win, that not only is the work shown in the book, but it's shown in the exhibits around the world.
So the impact of their work is really bigger than just like a one-time exhibition.
Yes.
You are having, you claim in many interviews that type is everywhere, that type is something crucial for you. Once I have asked for the image of you to accompany our posters. You have sent me your typographic posters. I'm sorry, you have sent me your typography portrait.
That's what I call it.
So could you tell us something more about that overwhelming impact of typography?
All right, so my family was in type. My father was a printer, and then in the early 50s, he started to work with Ludlow, which is hot metal. So I just grew up in a family of workers. You cannot stay home from school, you have to go to work. So I was always at the shop, and I had to keep out of there because I would get into trouble. So I stayed, and my mother would teach me different things. But my father, cleaned between the letters, and then you would proof, and then you would read and pick up changes and things like that. And sometimes I would go into the shop and talk to the guys. Maybe what else would a little girl do but talk to the guy? And looking at the catalog and seeing the different typefaces, and I actually liked it. I thought, this is pretty. I didn't know, what it actually was. I just knew that it was pretty. So as life progressed, I still had to work. And I said to my mother one day, do I get paid for this? No. Your payment is a roof over your head and your clothes and your food. When you graduate high school, then we'll pay you. So I always worked, but in the type, and that was it. But I never associated it with anything. It was just something I was doing.
Natural environment.
That was it. And then it's called Cardinal Type Service. And then it progressed upward, from hot metal into cold metal and so on. But then when I got married, my father asked my husband to sell for them and to come into the business. But then my husband said yes right away. But then he said, but you have to learn about type. So now my husband was in the industry. But again, I never thought about it the way I'm thinking about it now, of course, until my husband's client was on the board of the Type Directors Club and chair of the competition. And all these packages would go to the type shops because the TDC office at that time was very small. So, of course, Cardinal had to accept the packages that year because Jack Odette, who was the chair, was my husband's biggest client.
And there were probably hundreds of packages, right?
Well, at that point, there was almost 200 packages in his office.
Quite a number.
So I said, oh, where do they go? And he says, we have a room set up for it. And I said, but how do you organize? He says, I don't know. I go, okay, but I have to organize. My head thinks. So I organized it, and Jack came in. He was very impressed. He says, would you like to open them and enter the entries, and we'll pay you? And I said, Jack, I have a family. I had 2 children, and I go to school. I was going to school at night. And he said, but I said, you know what? I can make it work, Jack. Why not? So he said, okay, Klaus Schmidt from Y&R, he's going to come over, and he's going to show you how to do it. So I got so nervous. Alan said, hey, Klaus Schmidt's coming here. Do you know who he is? I go, Alan, don't make me nervous. So Klaus comes in, and we opened the first package, and he take it out, and we had these pads numbered 1 through, and you had to write the numbers, next number, so on and so forth. And I made a mistake on the first entry. He goes, don't you, and he's German, and he said to me, don't you understand English? I go, oh my God. I go, yes, I'm so sorry. And the next one I did was right. And Klaus actually became my mentor.
That's great.
He really did. Once, so anyway, a few months later, I'm still working, and Jerry Singleton was the executive secretary at that time for 20 years, and he retired, and they hired this other gentleman, and he wasn't doing, he kept saying, oh, why don't you come to the judging, which I did. And then, why don't you enter the winners, which I did. And then, why don't you collect the credits, which I did. And I'm just working on the whole thing. And then Jack called me one day, and he says, how would you like to be the executive secretary / director? I said, what do I do? He goes, I don't know, Carol. I go, all right, Jack, let me think about it. And of course, Alan said, do it. So I said yes. And I have not stopped since. And this is my 40th year.
Impressive.
And it's been absolutely wonderful.
And your passion.
Of course, so now I'm seeing type and the uses of type, and then going to the conferences, of course. And then I worked on Type 1987, which is our type conference, with Roger Black. So I got to meet Roger, who is fantastic. Roger worked at Rolling Stone and all these magazines and everything, and he was absolutely fantastic. And he and I really had this great relationship, and we really made it work. Then I had one of my medal presentations, I'm not sure which one it was, and we had a dais. And on the dais was Aaron Burns, who was, Aaron Burns and Herb LeBalance started International Typeface Corporation, ITC. So Aaron's there, and he said to me, Carol, I have to tell you what happened. I just came back from Ace High Tide. I said, what happened? He said, Ace High Tide wants Roger to work on a conference for them in 1990. And Roger stood up in an audience of 500 people, Carol, and he said, only if you hire Carol Wahler will I do this.
What an introduction.
So at that time when I was hired by the club, I was an independent contractor because they didn't want to worry about taxes and things. So I actually had 3 clients of my own at TDC, Advertising Production Club, and SWAP, which is Specifications for Web Offset Publication. I had 3 clients all by myself. And this was prior to computers really coming in. It was just, everything was just starting. So Roger comes in, Carol, and I go, okay, Roger, I'll do it. He says, you have to live in Oxford, England for a month. I go, okay. So Alan came with me, of course, and he was my helper. And we had everything on floppy disks. And because at that time, there weren't even emails. I mean, everything was just so different. If the phone would ring, the phone would ring like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I knew it was Adobe calling. And everything else was done by faxes. We had to put people in the dormitories and hotels. I had to do all of that by phone or fax. And we had over 700 people attend. It was absolutely amazing. We stayed at someone's home in Gloucestershire for 2 weeks, and then we moved into Oxford and stayed at the hotel. And I was at the town hall, and it was an amazing experience. But from then on, between Type 87, Type 90, without a doubt, my family, my whole world of meeting Herman Zoth, Adrian Frutiger. I, of course, knew Ed Benguet very well. My whole world was Type, and it just kept growing and growing, and my love for it.
But TDC competition is the most prestigious typographical competition in the world.
Yes.
And my question, how do you understand the excellence in typography?
Okay. First of all, we have the judges, and we try to pick judges that really understand the use of letter form. And it's really up to them to select. I can say to them, I like this. And we make, especially if I know somebody, I definitely wouldn't let them do that anyway. So it's really up to them. If I see something I don't like, I still can't say anything.
And a poker face.
Always, always. I stay out of it. I know I talk a lot, but I know when to shut up.
And I'm asking about also your personal inclinations. How do you understand excellence in typography? What kind of typography moves you? With its beauty, of course.
Well, yeah, definitely with its beauty. I mean, when we're in the car driving, and just even on trucks or anything, we're constantly criticizing. Or if I see something really beautiful, but most of the time you see something that's not spaced right, or they use all caps when they shouldn't use all caps. Or sometimes you'll see a beautiful script. And I always tell students today about cars. Like most of the cars today, they use a sans serif, and it's just so blah. It doesn't have that beautiful script that cars used to have for their logo. There was just something so pretty about it. And if you think about it, when you're walking, if you're aware of the letter form, you're walking down the street, you see something that's so pretty.
You stop.
You really stop. Now, my phone updated a few months ago, and it's this sans serif white font.
And you hate sans serifs, as far as I know.
And it's thick. And I'm looking at it, and I said to my grandson, I go, look at this, it's horrible. So he says, you know, Grandma, you could change this. And I really didn't know where it was. I mean, once someone showed me something, it's, you know how to do something. And he showed me, and I go, well, I like serif. So we picked a serif out. He made it black instead of the white. And then he noticed on my phone I love sunsets, and he picked out a sunset. And now my phone is beautiful, and I have no problem looking at it. But the other day, while here, I saw somebody's phone off the side, and I go to myself, oh my God, that's horrible.
And behind us, we can see the exhibition of books awarded in TDC competition. This is a collection of almost 190 books from the archive of the competition. How do you understand the book, the design of the book, what the book is for you? As a user of the book, and as a typographer and typography enthusiast as well, how do you understand the book entity?
Okay. Looking back, I mean, over here, the covers are beautiful. And as we in the industry know that the cover is a mini poster, and you have 30 seconds to decide. The average person does that. If they walk down, they go, oh, what a pretty cover. They don't know they're doing that. And then they'll pick it up, and then they'll look to see what it's about. But I was reading a book one day, and the Q, I love a cap Q, and it was beautiful. So I saw one of the type designers in the city, and I very confident. I said, you know, I'm reading this book, and it's the most gorgeous Qs. He goes, that's not good, Carol, because your eye sees it. It's not like Beatrice Ward said about the crystal goblet. You know it's beautiful, but you really don't see it, you're enjoying it. But to see it and pick it out, that's not good. I said, yeah, but I'm not the average reader. The average reader won't pick it out. But it was beautiful. So I tell this to one of my past presidents, Gary Munch, and we're talking about it. And sure enough, the next book I'm reading, because I commute, I read a lot, had the ugliest cap view. I couldn't stand it. There's a book I just read recently. It was called The Genie and the Golem. I don't remember the author's name, but beautiful cover. But the book was really good. The type is horrendous. I couldn't tell if it was a B or an H. If it was italicized, it just the way it just was not. It was not good for the way they chose that. And then the numbers were so close together. The type just did not work well. But I loved the book. I can't help it. But I didn't. I enjoyed the book, but I enjoyed reading. Do you know what I'm saying?
But do you do remember the experience or experiencing that bad typography?
Yes.
Harmful, almost.
Yes, almost.
It's almost like has a haptic value in a way, sensual, right? It affects our perception.
Definitely. Some books have the when they have the cap letter of
that would be cut initial.
Thank you, the initial cap.
So one more time from the sentence.
Right, and it's horrible. It shouldn't be in a book. I really believe that. Even when you're reading a magazine article, sometimes they have that initial cap, and it just comes down too low, and the way it works, it affects the other letters, and it just. And I'm reading, and I'm turning to Alan and I go, this is not good. It's
morally wrong, almost like Kantian.
It really, every time I would start reading that chapter or whatever, it was horrible. It disturbed me.
Could you update us what is happening at the One Club for Creativity?
Yes, it's very exciting. Since 2020, the Type Directors Club has now merged into the One Club for Creativity. And so now we've grown into a whole company of lots of people. It's given us a chance to really expand more, which is fantastic. They have the Young Ones program for students. So now there's the Young Ones for the one show, the Young Ones for the art directors, and one young TTC. So it's really given us a broader way of reaching people, and it's just been wonderful. So
creating community.
Yes. So now that we're 76 years old, this November will be 77, but we're still going.
Yeah, quite a number.
Yes,
right?
and it's very, very exciting.
And my last question, would you like to give our students a tip for how they could develop in typography? What should they do if they want to become better, typographers and better designers using typefaces?
All students.
All students, right?
Students really need to understand the use of that letter form, because when they design whatever they're designing, it's the letter form that will work in it. And if it's not done correctly, it won't look good. The message won't get across. So they really should have that knowledge. They should take a class in typography and learn. And it's fun. It's not something that's dull and boring. But it gets that message across that they're going to want to get across.
They cannot ignore typography because of that power.
Not at all. Not at all. If they're in publication design, a book, it needs words. If they're into fashion, those logos.
Well, there has been even collections with typography.
Yes.
Clothing, as far as I remember.
Definitely. Matter of fact, I'm looking for something with letter forms that I could have instead of just my necklace. But yes, it just doesn't matter. Even take the Nike swoosh, those sneakers. I mean, for branding, you need a letter form.
How about illustrators? I mean, students who claim that I'm an illustrator, I'm not doing letters. Is it true?
No, because even when you're illustrating for something, you may need to put a letter form there, and you want it to work with that illustration. So no, it really, if you really think about it, you need that letter form.
You cannot escape from typography.
No, not at all. And if it's done the right way, it's beautiful. And if it's not, people like me, I turned off.
Carol, it was really a pleasure to meet you and to talk to you. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.